She was one of the very most beautiful women when she was in her early 20s. I don't blame President Kennedy for, of course, he went after anything, but he did have some beautiful women.
John F. Kennedy's name is forever etched in history as one of the most charismatic and controversial figures to ever hold the office of President of the United States. Known for his vision of a new frontier, his handling of the Cuban Missile Crisis, and his tragic assassination, JFK's personal life has been the subject of endless intrigue. But among the many women linked to Kennedy, one stands out not just for her beauty or social standing, but also for her deep intellectual connection with the president, Mary Pinchot Meyer. An artist, socialite, and the ex-wife of a high-ranking CIA official, Meyer had a secret love affair with JFK that reportedly involved clandestine meetings, discussions of world peace, and even the use of psychedelic drugs. But what she said about JFK before her mysterious and brutal murder in 1964 has fueled decades of speculation and conspiracy theories. The affair that went beyond romance. Mary Pinchot Meyer was not just another one of Kennedy's many mistresses. She was a woman of intelligence, social pedigree, and strong political beliefs. Born into a wealthy and influential family, she was raised among America's elite and later married Cord Meyer, a prominent figure in the early days of the CIA. After their divorce, Mary settled in Georgetown, where she became deeply involved in the art world, forming friendships with notable figures in politics, journalism, and intelligence circles. Her relationship with Kennedy reportedly began in earnest after his election to the presidency. Unlike some of his other affairs, which were fleeting and based on physical attraction, Kennedy's connection with Meyer seemed to be more profound. According to various accounts, she provided him with a perspective on world affairs that few others could offer. She was politically active, deeply anti-war, and keenly aware of the power structures that governed Washington. The most intriguing aspect of the relationship, however, was their supposed experimentation with LSD. Timothy Leary, the Harvard psychologist who became the face of the psychedelic movement, claimed that Meyer had approached him for guidance on administering LSD. She reportedly wanted to introduce the drug to influential figures in Washington, including Kennedy, in an effort to expand their consciousness and push them towards peace-oriented policies. Leary later recalled that after JFK's assassination, a distraught Meyer contacted him saying, quote, "They couldn't control him anymore. He was changing too fast. They had to take him out." These words fueled theories that Meyer believed Kennedy's death was orchestrated by elements within the government who feared he was becoming too independent. A murder that raised more questions than answers.
She turned Jack Kennedy. She was so bright, so committed, from a cold warrior into an advocate for peace. She was behind his American University speech. She moved him to deal with Khrushchev. She was a powerful, powerful woman. Had been married to Cord Meyer, who was a senior guy at the CIA. Divorced him in '57 because she couldn't put up with it anymore, what they were doing. And after Jack Kennedy was killed, she waited until the Warren Commission report came out. And when that came out, and she was appalled by the fact that it didn't deal with the truth of what happened, she went to her ex-husband, and I believe also to Jim Angleton, another senior CIA guy, said, if you guys don't tell how Jack Kennedy was really killed, then I'm going to blow the whistle on you and all you're doing.
On October 12, 1964, less than a year after Kennedy's assassination, Mary Pinchot Meyer was shot to death in broad daylight while walking along the C&O Canal towpath in Georgetown. She was killed execution-style, with one bullet to the head and another to the back. The police quickly arrested a man named Ray Crump Jr., who was found nearby with wet clothes and a superficial wound on his hand. But there was no forensic evidence linking Crump to the crime, and he was ultimately acquitted at trial. The case against Crump was weak from the start. Witnesses described a man at the scene who was significantly taller and heavier than Crump. No murder weapon was ever found, and there was no physical evidence, no blood, no gunpowder residue that tied Crump to Myers' killing. His defense attorney, the formidable civil rights lawyer Dovey Johnson Roundtree, dismantled the prosecution's case by pointing out the inconsistencies in the eyewitness testimonies and the lack of hard evidence. Despite Crump's acquittal, Myers' murder was never properly investigated beyond the initial arrest. Given her connection to Kennedy and her rumored knowledge of sensitive information, many have long suspected her killing was not random, but rather a targeted hit. the missing diary and the CIA's involvement. Perhaps the most perplexing element of Meyer's story is what happened in the hours following her death. Within mere hours of the murder, James Jesus Angleton, the CIA's chief of counterintelligence and a close associate of Mary's ex-husband, reportedly broke into her home in search of a personal diary. The diary, which was later confirmed to have existed by multiple sources, allegedly contained details of her relationship with Kennedy, her knowledge of his policies, and possibly her suspicions about his assassination. Ben Bradley, the famed Washington Post editor and Meyer's brother-in-law, later recounted how Angleton had taken possession of the diary. He admitted his wife, Mary's sister Toni, had handed it over to the CIA, where it was reportedly destroyed. Some believe the diary may have contained explosive revelations, possibly about Kennedy's assassination, her own suspicions about who was behind it, and her knowledge of covert activities within the intelligence community. The speed at which Angleton moved to secure the diary suggests that Meyer's murder was not a random act of violence. Rather, it appears as if there was an urgent need to prevent certain information from coming to light. Many theorists argue that Meyer, much like Kennedy himself, had become a liability to powerful interests in Washington. A hidden battle behind the scenes. One of the most pressing questions surrounding Mary Pinchot Meyer's murder is the extent of her knowledge about covert CIA operations, particularly those related to her ex-husband Cord Meyer and his role in the agency. As a high-ranking CIA official, Cord Meyer was deeply involved in Cold War-era psychological warfare and propaganda operations. His work within the agency placed him at the center of efforts to shape public opinion, influence foreign governments, and counter Soviet narratives. Mary's outspoken anti-war views and her increasing skepticism of the CIA's activities may have put her at odds with powerful figures in Washington. She was reportedly vocal about her disdain for the growing military-industrial complex and had become disillusioned with the very institutions that once shaped her social and political circles. Some accounts suggest she had knowledge of clandestine government activities, which may have included operations related to Kennedy's assassination. Adding to the intrigue, it's been alleged that she confided in friends about her belief that elements within the government had orchestrated JFK's assassination. If she'd been vocal about such suspicions, it could have made her a target for those who wished to silence any narrative that deviated from the official conclusion presented by the Warren Commission. Her proximity to intelligence circles, combined with her relationship with Kennedy, suggests she may have been privy to information that few others knew. Furthermore, her murder bears similarities to the fate of other figures who had connections to intelligence agencies and the Kennedy administration. Figures like journalist Dorothy Kilgallen, who was investigating JFK's assassination before her mysterious death in 1965, and even Robert F. Kennedy, whose 1968 assassination raised questions about unseen political forces, illustrate a pattern of silencing those who pursued alternative narratives. Whether Mary's death was an isolated event or part of a broader web of political intrigue remains an open question. But the CIA's involvement, whether direct or indirect, cannot be ignored. The agency's rapid response in securing her diary and the involvement of James Jesus Angleton, its head of counterintelligence, only deepens the mystery. Questions unanswered. Despite the passage of nearly 6 decades, Mary Pinchot Meyer's murder continues to baffle researchers, historians, and true crime investigators. The case has all the hallmarks of a conspiracy: a high-profile victim with deep political connections, a crime that appeared professionally executed, an immediate but questionable suspect, and the involvement of intelligence operatives in covering up potentially explosive information. One of the most perplexing aspects of the case is the lack of motivation for her murder. If it was a random act of violence, as the prosecution initially claimed, why was nothing stolen from her? Why was the execution-style nature of the shooting ignored? How did her killer manage to escape undetected despite the towpath being a public space? The precision of the shooting, 1 bullet to the head and 1 to the back, suggests the work of someone with experience in targeted killing. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Mary Pinchot Meyer's murder was a cover-up, or was it simply an unsolved crime? Let us know in the comments section below.